How does Reddit feel about milk? It was almost 3 years ago and I was meeting my girlfriend's family for the first time at her house for Thanksgiving. Pick up milk, she says, we'll need it. Oh okay, so I buy 2 gallons of whole. I figure some will be used for dinner preparation, so I bought an extra gallon than usual just in case. Soon after her dad arrives. Hey sweetie, I brought milk, he announces, a half gallon of skim in hand. Well, I guess he anticipated the milk being needed. But twice skim. In walks her aunt. Hey, I brought milk, she says, grinning with a half gallon in hand. Weird, but whatever. She must have asked her to. The final straw was her grandmother, though. She came in with her own 2 half gallons of milk, one being chocolate. So at this point I'm asking myself, what the fuck? What's all this milk for? What could possibly warrant this much milk? No sooner than when we sat down to eat was this all elucidated. They each opened up their own respective half gallons and started drinking those fuckers down with Thanksgiving dinner, and I mean guzzling. I sat in awe with my beer in hand, intimidated and looking on but trying desperately not to stare. Long story short, I thought I liked milk a lot. Not compared to those people. They come in with a half gallon, then 2 half gallons, then you with 2 gallons. They must have been ready to adopt you into the family full time until you sat down with the beer and didn't guzzle your 2 gallons. Here's you, perpetually verdant with 2 gallons. What a catch. Not on the same level, but I grew up in a milk-friendly household, meaning things like having a cookie. Can't do it without a glass of milk. Like, deal if off is there isn't some milk to wash down the cookie or something like a brownie. Same for a donut, however this mostly applies to sweets. I made the same move my girlfriend and she thought I was completely insane. Me too. My wife can't wrap her head around it. Anytime something is off, like I'm constipated or diarrhea or my stomach hurts or I have a runny nose, she starts asking when I had milk last. I always laugh but it drives me nuts. Milk causes 0 issues with me. I drank a gallon in a day and no ill effects. Recently I saw a YouTube video discussing milk and whether you should or shouldn't drink it. My reaction was simply a typical what the actual fuck. Now, the video was well made and made sense, but I was seriously baffled by the idea of people considering milk to be a big deal enough for something like this to exist. To me it's like making a video about discussing whether or not you should eat potatoes. Besides that, I like milk. Admittedly the lactose-free version, while still good, is a bit too watery for my liking, and I also prefer the normal full-fat milk over the reduced-fat ones. I also absolutely hate the plant-based alternatives and whatnot. Those just taste gross to me. But while I do like milk, there's one thing that is significant in my use of it. It's healthy to drink since it has a whole lot of nutrients in it. However, since it has all of these nutrients, it's no replacement for water. I treat it as being closer to a food than a drink, even though I call it the drink. It's not a good solution to my thirst as water is superior for that role, but it's good to drink once or twice a day. Besides that, it's very useful for making smoothies and the occasional hot chocolate. I fucking love milk. I drink about 3/4 th of a gallon per day. Edit. Milk lovers and milk haters are both probably about to hate me, but I drink skim milk unless it's sold out. When I started lifting in high school I realized I could cut the calories and fat and still get the same amount of protein. I've always loved milk, and after a few gallons of skim milk, I couldn't tell the difference. I still drink skim milk to this day, even without worrying about the calories or fat. Dude, right there with ya. 1 half gallon fat-free a day. I always thought I was weird. Well, I am, but we don't drink milk, we chug it. It's basically food. The crave is a totally real thing, and you notice how if you run out and go a day without, the next gallon you open will be down a third in about 30 seconds. It's my heroine. Alright, deal with it. I'm glad you asked because this has been on my mind lately. I absolutely love it. Cool, rich, refreshing, and it is especially helpful for my particular personal dietary needs. But lately public sentiment swung the pendulum past let's incorporate alternatives into the discussion. Into drinking cow's milk is like drinking poison, and anyone who does it is both morally and physically bankrupt. I bring a bottle of milk with me to work with lunch, and pulling out that bottle might as well be pulling out a cigarette, to be honest. I've had several instances where I've been put in a position of defending myself over it, which is just kinda wild. TBH, I get more pushback over milk than meat. Yeah, cows produce milk because they are artificially inseminated repeatedly throughout their lives, and the babies are taken away so humans can take their breast milk. If you really think it through and research the dairy and meat industries, you'll realize it's actually really sickening and disturbing. The babies are either sent off to be slaughtered for veal or put back into dairy production, so it's really not an ethical or just industry at all. We don't biologically need to drink any breast milk after our mothers stop breastfeeding us as infants. Watch Dairy is Scary on YouTube. Hands down, every kind of milk is bomb, but alternatives hit different as well. If seriously recommend if you can, you got a local cow farm near. Chocolate milk and such is on a different level compared to store stuff. Oat milk I love in iced lattes. Soy I love in hot lattes. White chocolate or mocha goes perfect. Rice milk exists. Coconut milk is alright, but when you mix with smoothies I find best. Almond is bomb in pancakes, especially vanilla, and chocolate almond milk is perfect when I make cakes. Love it. Drink it straight, chocolate, in coffee, tea, with PB&J, pizza, or even ice cream. Grew up on a dairy farm, so been drinking it my whole life. Best is straight out if the tank, after milking and chilling for 12+ hours, but before anything is removed, in a tin ladle was the absolute best way to have it. Been known to drink an entire gallon in a day. I usually have at least a little at my house for cooking or if the kids want cereal, but no one at our house really drinks it. My oldest kid actually really hates dairy products in general, and after discussing it with the pediatrician I realized there are much better sources of nutrients available in modern society than cow's milk. After that, I realized it is very overrated in American culture and stopped worrying about feeding it to my family. Now we go through about 1 cup a week as a household. Cow's milk or other kinds of milk, because while I've had a lifelong love affair with cow's milk, it stopped loving me back around the time I turned 18. Other milks, goat, oat, various nuts, are fine, but none match the superiority, of cow's milk, even though cow's milk makes me farty and gives me the worst diarrhea ever. I feel that it has become trendy to have some BS intolerance, and a lot of the time people land on dairy for what their GI can't handle. I think more times than not, it's nonsense. I love milk. The only time I feel comfortably full and satisfied after a meal is when I have milk. The taste of cold glass of milk is out of this world too. Oat titty milk, almond titty milk and soy titty milk, I find them relatively pleasant in taste, although I think I'm mildly allergic to soy in large quantities as my throat tightens up after drinking it. Cow titty milk, apart from skimmed milk, it is all good. Gold top milk especially, it is absolute heaven. Human titty milk, I have no memory of how it tasted, but I'm sure once I find a wife and she becomes pregnant I will have ample time to reacquaint myself with this old favorite of my infancy. I mean, I have a BF, but if we are being honest, I kinda like him. Once he helped me sleep by making me comfy and stayed the entire night, never cheated or hurt me, so I think it's a bonus. I think as a good partner for life I usually have breakfast with him. We have a pretty special bond. I have 1 coffee a day with a bit of full-fat milk. I feel like that keeps my lactase enzymes working, and the day I do decide to eat a full tub of ice cream or any other dish rich in dairy, it won't fuck up the 48 hours that follow. Besides, I've tried drinking coffee black and the pH is too low for comfort for me. I can get away with it for a few days, but eventually, my stomach starts saying number. I do like my 1 coffee a day strong ... like the milk turns it a hue of orange instead of beige. I saw my roommate with a gallon of whole milk and bag of Takis when he was playing on his PC. I haven't milked since then. That was a week ago. What bothered me more the fact he drank whole milk straight from the jug and while eating Takis, or simply it being whole milk. I'm not a health nut, but damn bro, that combo is bound to ruin your entire day. We drink a lot of milk in our household, but thanks to COVID I've become increasingly wary of buying large quantities at once. Earlier this year my brother, who has 4 children, was confronted by an angry customer at a store when he was buying 2 gallons of milk. She was yelling at him for panic buying and grabbed one out of his cart and took it away. Then just this week, I went to the store to get milk. My wife asked me to get 3 gallons this time since our family of 5 goes through a lot. A college-age girl at the store confronted me and asked why I needed so much milk. I was confused and asked her to repeat what she said and she became agitated. Befuddled I just pointed at my 2 little ones bouncing off the walls and said, I have hungry children to feed. Hope, at that point she felt sheepish about it and said, oh, and walked off. The more I've thought about it the angrier it makes me. However, I have 3 kids and if we all have a bowl of cereal and a glass of milk with dinner, that's a gallon of milk. What right does some random young person get off challenging a complete stranger with the responsibility of children as if they have the experience to understand our needs? Really frustrating how COVID has brought out such entitlement in so many ways. Milk has an interesting history. A long time ago when savage men wanted to lay siege to a city they would construct machines like catapults, manglins, and ballistas. They were dark times, but there was a prophecy of a greater power, a siege engine capable of flinging 90 kilograms projectiles over 300 meters. Most said it was but a myth. Then in roughly the 1100s the mighty counterweighted trebuchet was discovered. Roaming the plains of France, these mighty siege engines with their stout oaken frames were capable of doing exactly as the prophecy foretold. The people rejoiced as they were finally capable of taking the cities of their enemies. The power of the trebuchet could not be matched and the great leaders were afraid. They spread lies that catapults were better and even invented flashy useless weapons like cannons. The people were deceived, but we know the truth. The trebuchet capable of flinging 90 kilograms projectiles over 300 meters is the superior siege engine. Everything below is about cow's milk. I used to love drinking milk, especially after a meal, but I stopped drinking milk about 10 years ago when I found out that milk has little to no benefits for you and can affect you in negative ways. For example, kids who continue to drink cow's milk, after a certain age, I forget what, have more instances of bone fractures, compared to kids who don't drink milk. When I did drink milk every day, it had to be whole milk, which, I think, is 4%. Thought it was 100% for the longest time. When my friend said cream is 50%, I was utterly confused and we had a long conversation about what whole milk is. 2% and 1% milk is so tasteless, I might as well drink water. I can no longer drink a glass of milk. Tried drinking one of those baby cartons for kids' school lunches, stuck to the bathroom later that night. The older you get, the more lactose intolerant you become, especially if you stop drinking it, which I did, but I can still eat ice cream and cheese, which is good. I love ice cream and cheese. I tried soy and almond milk, they're okay, but I'm mostly milk-free now. I thought for the longest time I was not a fan of cow juice. The thing about milk is that it is a nutrient-rich liquid food produced by the mammary glands of mammals. It is the primary source of nutrition for young mammals, including breastfed human infants before they are able to digest solid food. Early lactation milk is called colostrum, which contains antibodies that strengthen the immune system and thus reduces the risk of many diseases. In almost all mammals, milk is fed to infants through breastfeeding, either directly or by expressing the milk to be stored and consumed later. The early milk from mammals is called colostrum. Colostrum contains antibodies that provide protection to the newborn baby as well as nutrients and growth factors. The makeup of the colostrum and the period of secretion varies from species to species. For humans, The World Health Organization recommends exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months and breastfeeding in addition to other food for up to 2 years of age or more. In some cultures it is common to breastfeed children for 3 to 5 years, and the period may be longer. Fresh goat's milk is sometimes substituted for breast milk, which introduces the risk of the child developing electrolyte imbalances, metabolic acidosis, megaloblastic anemia, and a host of allergic reactions. The last point about all this is that I thought I didn't like milk because I had never had it other than chilled and elevated, and then one time when I was at a party I met a doctor who insisted that I try it unchilled and blind tasting. So he picked 2 rooms and put the 2 glasses of milk in the 2 rooms, and left me to walk up to the room and try the milk. The first room, chilled milk clearly, and I hated it still. The second room, I walked up to it not wanting to try milk again, but surprisingly I placed my hand on the door handle, opened the door, get on the floor, everybody walked the dinosaur. Used to only have skim in the house growing up, then eventually moved on to dairy-free milks on my own. I'll consume things that have milk in them, baked goods, etc., but I hate the way milk itself tastes and the smell, taste it leaves in my mouth. Along with the way it makes your body produce excess mucus. Oh, and the inflammation. No thanks. Unsweetened non-dairy milks all day. I have a love-hate relationship with ice cream. Haven't found any affordable non-dairy ones that really compete with the creaminess of real ice cream. Gives me a reason to abstain until I cave though. Otherwise I'd eat it every day. I cut milk, not dairy, out of my diet about 10 years ago. It wasn't because I didn't like it, but I found that it was messing with my skin, and that I was mainly consuming it with cereal which I wasn't even a big fan of. Also, I was eating breakfast in the morning when I wasn't even hungry for it, so I cut breakfast out of my meals around that time too. I still occasionally treat myself to chocolate milk though. I work at Walgreens, and exactly 1 week from today, a kid walked in and bought a half-gallon of milk, left the store and came back 10 minutes later with the jug half empty. He then asked me where the bathroom was, so I pointed him in that direction. He's in there for maybe 30 minutes and leaves the store empty-handed. I went in there later that night to take out the trash, and there's milk all over the place, the floor, the mirror, the toilet seat, etc. If I ever see him again, I'd like to know the full story of what happened because it just boggles my mind to have seen something like that. It's a good thing to have at situations where food is scarce and you have a milk-producing cow, but I'm a society where we don't need it. It confuses me why we use it other than dairy-specific products like cheese. It offers very little health benefit with a plethora of health concerns, and 60% of the population is lactose intolerant. That being said, I drink milk. One day at my elementary school during lunch, I grabbed a carton of chocolate milk and felt the inside was hard around the carton. Curious, I decided to take it and I didn't want to switch it out for another one and other kids were behind me, so I didn't want them to think I was some kid who was never satisfied with anything. When I opened it up, it turns out an entire block of ice was in there, coated with chocolate. Yes, chocolate. I can't show an image of it as I literally didn't have a phone back then, and I would be forced by my teachers to throw it out even if I did try to bring it home. TLDR, bought a carton of chocolate milk and got an entire block of ice instead. My wife is lactose intolerant, so we looked into alternatives over the years. We tried soy milk, then almond milk, but none of them hit right. We found oat milk and my god, it's so much better than cow's milk. I'm not lactose intolerant and I prefer it. At this point, cow's milk tastes thin and super sweet, with a bitter aftertaste. I don't like it at all. Milk is the greatest drink in the world, not just cow milk, either. I've had raw goat milk and that was incredible. It's thin and subtle, but creamy and satisfying. I can go through an entire gallon of it in a day if I'm really thirsty. If it makes you slightly phlegmy when you drink it, A pinch of cardamom mixed in prevents that. My mom once made me drink almond/soy/rice milks for a year when she thought I was allergic, and that was the worst year of my life. They're all nasty in comparison to glorious milk. Oat milk is pretty good, too, although it is kind of like drinking a bowl of oatmeal in flavor.